Hi and welcome to Masquerade Breach. I'm Blazing.
I'm Catherine Cosplays.
I'm
Uh,
Jasper.
and I'm Ocean.
I would say don't tell the Camarilla, but they may have already found out because we've had our fair share of technical issues today. So, today we're talking about Midnight Mass, episodes 5 and 6. If you don't mind spoilers, welcome on in. If you do mind spoilers and you haven't seen the episode yet, go watch the episodes and then come and check out the podcast when it's finally uploaded to wherever it's being uploaded at. Who would like to start this episode?
Oh, did we forget? We forgot. We gotta do the thing.
What thing?
The thing. Where's our sassy stewardess?
Oh God.
I was going to say, that's for VTM, isn't it?
It's also for here. We thought we were gonna do it for here too.
Okay, go ahead, sassy stewardess.
Oh, maybe the sassy stewardess doesn't want to do an introduction today. You ever thought about that?
All right, so I guess I'll go ahead and get started with the episode then. Thank you very much, sassy
All right.
stewardess, for your introduction.
Can you read the notes? I forgot what happened in those episodes, and I don't want to go
What?
over.
Okay,
You didn't take notes?
so
I could
No, I
totally
just
tell
want to
you what
make sure
happened.
I'm correct.
I'm going to read what I have for notes because apparently we all love what I take notes because it's just like random shit. We start with the first episode we watched. We then move to the second episode we watch, and then we talk about it all together and kind of impressions and thoughts, and then we review the episode.
Mhm.
Oh, welcome to Masquerade Breach, episode 9. Midnight Mass, episode 5. Riley's dead, frowny face.
Yeah, I know.
I was super upsetty spaghetti.
Doc's mom is looking pretty spry and sharp-minded for an Alzheimer's patient.
She's also turned into, just, like, somewhere in the middle there. I don't know if they just oldified the young actress
Yep.
at the beginning, but what the hell?
He was always played by a young actress.
I think she was, and she was just oldified.
Yeah.
Followed by drug dealer's mom, quote, "You sure as shit ain't Christian," to which the sheriff replies, "No shit."
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Followed by, and this is no context, "Everything we've seen so far and now they want to move the church tonight? That's sus."
Yeah, no, that seems weird.
Fuck you, Bev, as is tradition.
Yes, as
Yep,
is tradition.
yep.
We hate Bev.
Something's covering the cross of the church during the service now.
Yay. We love it.
Sermon lesson, morality changes. That's sus.
Real sus.
Yeah,
Pastor,
it's like the dude like made a list of sus things he could do and then proceeded to do all of them.
Pastor says, quote, "It's gonna go down on Sunday, which happens to be Easter. Dun dun dun."
So it's gonna go down.
Riley just
Things are
casually
going
having an existential crisis in the boat in the middle of the ocean. Flashback story. Riley's neck
Yeah.
was broken. Monsignor's eyes glow in the dark now.
He's like a
Yeah.
cat.
Well, Riley seems to have developed a slight burning sensation in the sunlight area.
I guess that leaves us to the idea that where the sun don't shine. I guess I hit him where the sun don't shine.
Riley hears Bev's heartbeat.
Nom noms.
And he wants it.
Bev sure is trusting. Monsignor talks about listening to the conscience. Oof. Followed by Riley's meeting the sun. And that concludes my notes for episode 5.
So let's take this back, rewind.
Yep.
All right. So the part that kind of really drove to me was not only did the idea, because going back to, I guess, the fourth one where they were saying that she seems to be crazy and whatnot, the idea that she goes to the doctor on the island and says, this sounds crazy, but, and I think this might have been, I don't know if this was right after, it must have been, yeah, it had to have been right after losing Riley, in the aspect of the boat incident, because
Yes, it
uh,
was.
obviously they had shared such an intimacy, and she was like, "Are you trying to scare me? Are you trying to scare me?" And he finally responds with, "I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to isolate you. I'm trying to keep myself from going anywhere."
Yep.
And the idea behind that was such a powerful movement that he knew that she wouldn't believe him until he showed her.
Yep.
It was that whole seeing is believing kind of concept, which brought back so much trauma of how we have to go off of blind faith, and yet this person saw through it.
Yep.
He had, now mind you, this is right in the middle of that episode, if I remember correctly, because there was a whole idea that he's talking with Monsignor about this after the bite and everything. He finally comes home, kinda. He leaves notes everywhere, and the idea behind all of that was insane. In fact, his parents were essentially saying, I don't know if you were telling him to write notes or anything, but we got notes. So apparently everybody got notes up until except for Riley's girlfriend, which I can't remember her name. It
I
was
don't even think they were dating.
They weren't. They were very close, though.
Yeah.
He loved, you could tell
They
that
loved each other, but they
loved
weren't
each
together.
other.
Their
And the
souls were bonded.
Yeah.
very, very entwined. The idea that he was let go after this, and of course we see the whole thing regarding. And I'm sorry, I'm jumping back and forth completely with this. The idea that I saw was, we first see him. He finally talks with her, ends up. I don't know if it was a. He takes her out to the. We see her. We see him knocking on her door or whatnot after not responding for a night, if I remember correctly, in a full day.
Yeah.
And then eventually it kind of does this rewind thing. I'm trying to remember if that's what happened. I think that's what happened. I think it kind of goes back into a flashback of what happened because he's retelling the story
took
to
her
her
out on the
while
boat.
from. Yeah, he's retelling the story of what happened, and he's like, "You're not gonna believe me, but I have to say this." And he recounts the situation of what happened in regards to how it all went on, and the idea behind it was that he's explaining this to her, and as he finishes the story, it's almost time for the sun to be up and whatnot, and she's like, "That's a lot, that's a lot," and he said, "But I know that the only way you'll ever believe me is if I just show you," and that's when the sun hits, and for a moment he's in his own mind again, very much like he was saying about how the synapses of the brain fires off with memories, but it doesn't really go into memories. It just goes into, I think, what was it, his mom or?
It was the girl that he hit with the car.
Yeah, that's right.
Flashes back to her for a second.
Yeah, and it was almost like she gave him a sense of peace at that point. Like all the guilt that he had was released, all of that. And obviously it looks very beautiful from his perspective. From her perspective, he's catching fire and burning alive.
Yep.
Yay! Can I talk about how I love that in every other episode they have ended the episode with like some like hymn or just like silence to kind of brood in like the thing, ending with her screaming at his um spontaneous combustion, we'll say.
Yeah.
um oh my god, that was probably the most haunting thing I've seen in this series so far.
Yep. But it was done so well, so beautifully.
It was done very, very well.
I just so many circles are coming back.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. So many circles are coming back. Like with Riley. I'm just going to talk about like Riley for a second, because the one thing when they were talking about what happens when they die, is he finished his monologue with like describing like his body decaying and all of that, and then he just said, and then I will finally serve a purpose. Like only in death will he serve a purpose, and literally that's what happened when he like the only way he could inspire Erin, the girlfriend's name is Erin, to fight, because he knew that like, but he wanted her to leave. The only way to convince her to do such is by showing. And then with finally saving everyone through his death, he was able to achieve peace with what happened.
Yeah.
Because like every time he would go to sleep or every time he would close his eyes, he would just see that girl's dead, mangled body on the ground when the crash happened. That was every time he ever closed his eyes, and that's every time he dreamed. So finally he was like, and it was like nighttime. So finally in the morning when he closes his eyes, she's there and she's like, okay, let's go. Like, it's okay. Like he was finally able to achieve peace.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
That
yeah.
full circle moment. Also the fact Riley made when he finally realized what he was in the like rec center.
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. Yeah.
He knew what he was gonna do. He knew the second he knew what he was like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Like and you could just see it. He was literally just sitting there biding his time, and he was in prison for 4 years. So he knows how to sit and bide time until he can leave.
Yeah.
And that's literally all he did. While they were spewing all of their BS, he was just sitting and waiting.
Yep. He was just, I guess the idea behind that was that he ended up just kind of the nod and smiling technique.
Yeah, smile and wave,
in a
boys.
lot of ways. Yeah.
Smile and wave. And then obviously, like, it's so ironic that Sturge, whatever his name is, he's the one with bandages all over his arms, and Bev Keane is perfectly fine.
Yeah, of course.
She's not bleeding. She's not gonna bleed.
So, I want to draw just attention for a second. Let's talk about the fact that he wasn't swayed. Not only was the priest giving these sweet words, these, reassurances and trying to guide him. Not only was Monsignor trying to pull him into the flock and guide him back to the way he thought Riley should be, we know that Riley is a person who has seen the face of evil and been absolutely torn apart by it, because he's not fooled for 1 second. From the moment he wakes up, he starts questioning everything. Like, I thought I was gone. I thought this was it. You, like, unalived me. Like, this shouldn't be a thing. This is unnatural. And then Monsignor sits him down and starts talking to him, and you can just see that look in his eyes of, this is not cool. This is not the way things should be. And I know for a fact that you fucking lied to me. And I think it was that lie that was kind of the linchpin, not the linchpin, but the grenade pin that pulled that for Riley. That, set that in motion. And then Riley basically just gave him a giant middle finger and said, fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, you might have all of these plans. What are you going to do if somebody just turns around and pisses all over the plans that you've got, all over the battle maps that you've drawn? That's my job.
I think, and then at that point, like after she comes back to the island, right?
Yes.
Erin comes back to the island. First thing she does, she goes to Riley's parents.
Yep.
And she's talking to the mother, and the mother is refusing to believe it.
Nope.
No, she goes to the doctor first.
Yep.
And then she goes to the parents.
She goes, this is going to sound insane. And she goes, and the doctor just like, oh yeah, totally nuts. And then she
meanwhile starts prepping this like slide, this like little petri dish with a bunch of blood, and she's like, yep, totally insane, absolutely not gonna believe you for a moment. Sets it in the sun, and then it like bursts into flame. Like, immolates.
Yeah.
She's like, yep, totally insane.
Yep, and then they start their plan. They talk. They end up going in through this so much. It's like, can we become back to normal? That was one of the biggest things, is that they were wrestling with. Can this be a thing that we can come back from?
It's because they haven't died yet.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Once they died, that's the bridge you can no longer cross. That's, that bridge is burnt, I think. And I actually like this because it's something that another series played with as well. Not True Blood, it was Vampire Diaries. Played with this as well.
Yes.
You were fine as long as you were still alive. But the moment something happened to you and you had that blood in your system, something happened to you to stop to stop that life from flowing through you, it was game over.
Mm-hmm.
This was another thing that kind of got me. And it's a bit of this is something that I'm going to throw out there because it's such a weird thing. Because we know that that John is Pruitt, right? We know that John is
Paul.
Paul is the fake name.
Paul, and Paul is John, or Paul is Monsignor Pruitt.
Yeah.
So we know that he ended up, and this is one of the discrepancies of this series that I'm been trying to wrap my brain around, of how did they get past this? Monsignor Pruitt was able to go out into the sun when he first arrived, right? From Israel all the way. But he was already dead. How?
He didn't die yet.
No,
he did die.
Nope. Hold on.
He was in the cave. He was drank from a lot, but then when he said angel to the vampire was like, oh shit, hey, and fed him blood, and that's what revived him. And then he has literally been just slowly like sipping at the vampire's blood, but then I don't know, I think like he just ingested too much, and that's why he died on the floor. I don't know.
Was it the gunshot?
No, it wasn't.
No.
No, I personally think it was because he didn't drink human blood before he drank what's his face's blood off the ground. And
Joe Colley.
That kind of completed the transformation there.
So
that was my interpretation of it.
What's your thoughts, Blaze?
Look at the way he died in the house. What happened?
You're meaning the seizure.
What happened? Lay it out for me. What happened when he died?
Well, it looked like the body death. Yeah, it was. It was.
Not
He.
not just that. He had a seizure in his house. He fell to the
Mhm.
ground. He had a seizure, and then what happened directly after that seizure?
He woke up again.
No, there was something else that happened. There was another
It
detail of how he died.
didn't his mouth foam?
Yes.
Oh my god,
What
Bev,
else
you bitch!
happened? Who else's mouths have foamed
Oh, we're
when they
talking
died?
about. We're
The
talking about.
poisons.
It's the poison.
In
Bev,
fact,
you
she
bitch.
was. Bev knew before even Monsignor Pruitt.
It's possible, absolutely. Look at the way he died. The evidence points to Bev poisoning him or him ingesting the poison.
And she wasn't like, why though? But that then leads to the question, why?
I don't know. But look at how much she's twisted. Look at how much she wants that power. I'm
mean-
inclined to think she knew something was up, and I'm inclined to think she knew he was going to come back when this happened. She's always conniving. She's always planning. She is always trying to figure out what she's going to do next to get the people on her side and to wrest that control from literally everyone around her. Don't forget, she's the true evil in this series. It's not Monsignor Pruitt. Monsignor Pruitt's a fucking victim.
Monsignor
I
Pruitt's
agree with
just he's just a little cray cray, honestly.
He never got to control what happened to him. He was a victim. He was a tool. It's Bev that's the true evil of this entire fucking series.
Also, the fact that when he's seizing and she's holding him, she says like Monsignor, like screaming, hit Monsignor like Pruitt, like at him, like while she's crying, and he's literally dying.
And is this also plays into, maybe it's because she thought, because of the fact that when he was doing these quote unquote miracles, she did that as a way to see if he would come back.
It's absolutely possible. But
So for her, it's a systemic. It's religious evil, I guess is the best way to put it.
Could you call it a leap of faith?
Also,
One second, somebody just knocked on our door. I'll be right back.
no worries.
All right.
Also want you to look at what happened when Bev moved to Monsignor Pruitt as he was dying. She held him in her arms. She didn't move to go get help. The moment somebody starts convulsing and foaming, the first thing you're going to do is scream for help. It's instinct.
Oh yeah. The moment people are already on their phones calling 911.
Either that or you scream for help because it's the easiest thing to do. Get attention any way that you can. It is literally human instinct.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't do it. She didn't move to help him. She held him in his arms and started consoling him.
Mm-hmm.
And then look at what he did when it comes to Riley.
Yep.
When Riley went, he acted in the exact same manner that she did. He mirrored her actions when it came to
Yeah.
Riley.
And
Mm-hmm.
this was actually depicted in the 4th episode. Unfortunately, sorry everyone.
Oh, you're good.
we're processing how it came to being into 5th, and we haven't even gotten to halfway. This is all in the very beginning, you know. Then afterwards, after they talk with the doctor, they end up. Aaron ends up talking with Riley's mother, who
Poor thing.
That was episode 6.
was that episode? No, I thought that was still.
Pretty sure that
Oh,
was
maybe it
episode
was.
6. She went over to talk
Was
to
it?
Mother because that's also when they started marching towards
Oh,
the church.
right, because the episode ends up cutting off when he ends up ashing.
Correct. That's
Right.
episode 6, right? We'll get there. Give us a second.
Sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
You're good.
I'm sorry.
Also want you to look at Bev's unwavering faith that Monsignor had Riley. She knew what was coming. She understood exactly what was happening. Yeah, she was still terrified. That's a human instinct. But she knew exactly what was happening. She may have questioned it for a
Mm-hmm.
split second, but then just like that, she was over next to him. He started to hear her
Yeah.
heartbeat. He lunged. She moved out of the way, and the next thing we know, like, she's actually pulled away from him a bit. Monsignor had him in the seat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, the idea that she's like, no, no, she started saying no about him being turned. In fact, she was jealous that
Yep.
he was turned.
Yes.
And the absolute, like, she's like, he doesn't deserve this. That was her whole point. One, she kept coming up with excuses. He's not of the faith. He doesn't believe. He needs to. He's not gonna take this. He's not. He doesn't even know what he's been given. You know, that was her whole thing.
And then Riley's lack of ability to control himself when he was finally presented with the goblet. Held
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
himself back, Monsignor held him back, and then once that control was taken and basically pulled back, Riley couldn't control himself, and I think he realized at that point exactly what was going to happen to everyone around him. I think
Yep.
that's when he made his decision. I have a wild theory. Evil begets evil. Evil attracts evil of all kinds. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like sharpening iron
So,
with iron.
here's my theory. If Bev acted like this during this series, we know she acted like this before this series. They actually hint that she was like this before this series started.
Mm-hmm.
What if she was the one that actually drew the vampire in to start with? What if her act of evil and lust for power was so strong, she was calling to this thing from across the world, and Monsignor Pruitt just happened to be the conduit that pulled it?
Mm,
I don't think so.
No?
yeah, I'll explain why not. Because one of the things with theories is you want to go with how can you discredit this, and I think it's not preordained. I think this was a demon or a vampire. I think, in my opinion, I think this was the first vampire ever created, or whatever. It was in a
Mm-hmm.
tomb, a crypt, or whatever, in a cave. The idea behind it is that she noticed the box. She got curious about what was in the box, even after it was emptied. She didn't know what it was,
Mm-hmm.
but the idea is that she became curiouser and curiouser, and she started put it. I will put it this way: that Bev is very intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think she put things together quicker than anybody else regarding this, and her idea is she saw it the way that Monsignor Pruitt saw it, and I think what it was because even when the death of Joe Colley, or the unlife, apologies, the unlife of Joe Colley, she didn't humanize him. She actually dehumanized him, and that's where I was under the impression, because with how the dog died and how Joe Colley died, it was under the impression that these were not people. These were not living things. They're just there. So I think in a lot of ways, the evil, because there's the unspoken evil, which we see regarding the vampire, and then there's the spoken evil, which is seen or embodied by Beverly, which we can see happening with how she is pious, she is arrogant, she is ruthless and cruel, and on top of that, she gaslights.
Uh,
And I think she'd been gaslighting Monsignor Pruitt along with everybody else. Like, that didn't change.
Jasper, what are your thoughts?
You're muted, hon.
We can't hear you.
Oh, I was muted on Discord.
Sorry.
My thoughts on the matter are that we are shown from the very beginning that Bev is the most opportunistic character on the island. She money laundered to get the funding for the rec center, and she killed Joe's dog just because she could.
Mm-hmm.
And because she wanted to. I don't think that she knew about the thing, the vampire, before it showed up, and he and Pruitt was being all weird. Um, but she knows like how to play the game. I mean, she got that rec center, she killed that dog, and got away with it.
Mm-hmm.
She's just a fucking evil mastermind.
Okay.
Sorry for cursing.
You're good. My streams are marked as 18 plus. Don't worry about that.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Okay. So, let me go down another line of thinking then. Would you guys say that Bev is greedy?
Oh yeah.
Is what?
Oh
you
yeah,
say she's
absolutely. She embodies all the vices.
Okay. Would you say she's
Not all of
Would
them.
you say she's envious?
Yes.
Yes.
Would you say
Sure, yeah.
she's lustful?
No.
Yes.
For
For
power?
Power.
For power. Absolutely for
I
power.
would say lust. I don't know if lust is the right word for it, but sure, I'll go with you guys.
Would you say Bev is prideful?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Would you say she's wrathful?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Killed
that's
that dog.
5 out of the 7 deadly sins right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's also slothful. I think there's a bit of
She's
slothful.
not a glutton though. Really not.
Glutton for punishment.
She's not.
Glutton for power.
Glutton for power.
Glutton for power.
I would say
she doesn't
that's
want
why
it to-
I'm saying like she is a glutton for power. I don't think she has a lust for power because she already has it. Like
Okay, then would you say she has lust for control of the situations around her?
Yes,
Oh,
there's a lust of control.
I don't know.
Jasper?
I don't know. I feel that gluttony fits more than lust for that one.
Okay.
I think she lusts for the
No,
immortality.
she doesn't need to have all the deadly sins, guys.
So here's the reason I'm asking. Because I have sitting in front of me the 7 virtues and the 7 deadly sins. I'm going to list off the 7 virtues as well, and then I want you to tell me who they remind you of. Chastity, temperance, charity, diligence, kindness, patience, and humility.
Mhm. I apologize. I kind of spaced out. What?
I'm going to list off the seven virtues, because I have listed the 7 virtues and the 7 deadly sins here. I'm going to list off the 7 virtues, then I want you to tell me who they remind you of. Chastity, temperance, charity, diligence, kindness, patience, and humility.
What's the girl's name?
Aaron.
No, the one that can walk now.
Lisa.
Lisa. Lisa is the one that it reminds me of all those, especially with how her life has been. Everything fits with all of that.
Really?
That's true.
Wasn't Riley the one biding his time while they were sitting in the community hall?
I think that every character, kind of, all of the quote unquote good characters. I mean, at the end of episode 6, I know I'm jumping the gun on episode 6, but there are like I think 6 or 7 people left in that group. So I think that each of those 6 people and Riley are supposed to represent one of those 7 virtues.
It is entirely possible. Speaking of episode 6.
Oh boy!
So, Midnight Mass, episode 6. My notes, I don't have much, but my notes are as follows. Riley really said, "Peace, bitch, I'm out." He wrote Mom and Dad a note, though. That was thoughtful.
Yeah.
Doc,
Good guy, Riley.
Doc believes the story. Mom's looking better.
A lot better, and I don't think it's
Mom's kind of
good.
Listen, not to be disrespectful, but Mom's kind of smoking.
Yes.
The fact that the Doc's mom... actually, no, I'll get to that in a sec. I'll finish this. I feel bad for the father, followed by shot in the head, but it's too late. The church drank the poison. Fuck you.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Now, take that and tune it to Shot Through the Heart.
And you're too late, darling, you give. Well, the poison, it's been too late.
You give poison a bad name.
Can I... Oh, God. Can I take it there?
Go for it.
Because this was something I commented when we were watching. I commented, "Oh my God, it's Jonestown!" Exclamation point.
Yeah, hey, if we can do, what was it? The temple, People's Temple. That's what it was.
But like all of the People's Temple drank the poison,
Yep.
except the leader.
Yep.
He got to have a swift death by being shot.
Which is what I think, which was the Paramount allusion to that. Yeah, it was absolutely a throwback to
Like
Jonestown.
literally, when I saw that, I was like, "Oh my!" Like it was so. Oh my! Like, I freaked the fuck out. I literally was like, "Oh no, this is fucking Jonestown!" And then they all started dying, and I was like, "Oh my God, no! I don't."
So that's the moment they confirm it's no longer a church; it's a cult.
Cult. Yep.
Yeah.
That does go back to another, because speaking of Jonestown and all that, the idea that I could at one point, as they were drinking the 1080, I believe was the 1080 compound is what was the poison, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I could think of during that whole scene was the song by Skinned called Jim Jones, and all I kept hearing was come to the temple, come suicide by cyanide, that whole thing and everything. And it's such a good song, but like you're absolutely right. There is an absolute relation between People's Temple and this church, especially at that point in time.
Then there's also sorry, go ahead.
It just like also like I didn't think they could show Bev Keane getting any lower. And then while everyone was dying in everyone Ocean on TikTok, you gotta oh, there you are, sorry. She was hiding.
Yep.
She was a fucking coward. And it took Aaron to shoot her for her to die.
Yeah, literally, like, I've had enough of this bitch. Bang.
Yep, dead. And of course, and if the very next moment, the very next thing she says, "We've got 5 minutes."
Oh, and then also the fact that like once Bev Keane no longer needs, she doesn't need Father Paul anymore. She's the power fucking vampire now.
Mm-hmm.
She is in charge. She can do whatever the fuck she wants.
Yeah, she has her whole supervillain era.
Oh my God.
The villain arc going.
I would also like to say, back to the People's Temple thing, the way that Lisa's mother tried to get her to drink it, both of her parents actually tried to get her to drink it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that fucked me up. That was so cool.
Yeah.
Because the adults made the children drink
Yeah.
the poison.
Yep.
Children first and then the adults.
Yep.
I want to talk a bit about the Doc's mom. Because all through this series, up to this point, we've seen the mom who's starting to take communion now. She's starting to revert a little bit more each episode to back to her physical prime. She's starting to de-age. Her Alzheimer's going away. Like, she's no longer suffering from it. She's starting to remember shit, right? There's a point where she looks at Monsignor and she confuses who everybody else thinks is the current priest for Monsignor. Thing is, she's actually the correct one in this situation. And we go a little bit further, and she's getting younger and younger and younger until she looks at her daughter during a church service, and she says, "I don't know who that was, the pulpit, but that's not the Monsignor I grew up with." And she walks the fuck out of the church, and basically says, "I will never step another foot in that church until I die."
I believe she even warned her daughter, saying, "We're not going back to that church."
Yep.
Because that's not the Monsignor.
That's not
I
the
don't know
Monsignor.
who that is.
Yeah, that ain't him.
But that isn't
I
him.
think they were childhood friends because I think they were the same age and they grew up together on the island. I really think so.
Oh, sorry.
Wait, go ahead, Jasper. Sorry.
I was gonna say, can I say something? A lot of people on Archive of Our Own think that they were more than friends in their youth.
Oh, have you gone through the AO3 section?
I sure have.
Okay, that's on my to-do list.
And it's all Gertrude X John, man. There's like so much of it.
Of course it is.
It's all that.
If you happen to go through AO3's Lost Boys section by any chance, it's all David and Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
with a lot of imprint thrown in.
Yeah, of course.
But the series is so good. They pull out the tiniest of details with this series and find a way to throw it back in your face later on.
Well, that was the other thing that I thought was really interesting, was that previously, because they were getting ready to do this on Easter, they were primed up for this. They knew exactly that there would be some resistance, so they kept the fairies away. They took down everything.
Power,
except
cell service, all of it.
Cell service went down. Actually, what was it? They said, "We'll keep that up for a little bit, but at a certain time we'll take it down." And that's exactly what happened.
Once everyone's in the church, they won't be on their phones anyway. Right. So we can take it down and no one will notice until it's too late.
Yeah. And then once that happened, that's when you knew things were going to hit the fan hard.
I feel so bad for that sheriff, man. I feel so terrible for him.
He came up and he was like, "This has gone too far." And it got to the point where he tried to open fire on him.
He pulled his gun in the middle of a church. In the middle of the church. He got subdued. And then his kid took it.
Yeah, and he watched his son die. After watching his wife die.
Oh. God damn, dude.
It's so intense. And it happens in such a I can't say a flash because it doesn't happen in a flash, but it definitely happens in a way that makes you go, "Okay, this is more than just messed up."
We watched this unfold over the course of the last 6 episodes. 6 episodes. Each episode is an hour. That's 6 hours. And I mean, a lot can happen in 6 hours. But when I think of this series, all I can think of is, well, that escalated quickly.
Very. And I think that's a tribute to the storytelling that they do in it. It absolutely builds. And what was it? It had to have been only about a month or two that this went this far.
something like that. Jasper, what are your thoughts?
On what specifically?
Everything we've touched on. Anything that we've touched on.
Have I'm trying to remember this one movie um, that uh, that I watched in college. Um, oh, it's called Night of the Hunter,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an old movie. It's black and white. Um, but they in that song, the main villain, the hunter, sings this hymn, um, and in the climax of this movie, um, there's like this cool like motherly character with a shotgun,
Mm-hmm.
shout out, um, and she sings the hymn, but in the way that it was originally, because he was doing like an abridged version, basically. Um, and the whole time I'm watching this parish just like keel over and die and then become a den of vampires, I'm thinking about this like woman with a shotgun, like waiting for all of the shit to start going down when the hunter comes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ugh. Check out The Night of the Hunter. It's a good old movie.
Cool.
But holy shit. Also, the way the dad sacrificed himself for his kid and his wife. I mean, he's just gonna be a vampire. He's not gonna be dead, but still.
Right.
Well, I think at this point, this is a good point to bring it up for our rating. So, on a scale of 1 to 5 blood drops, how do you guys think it held up to lore? How do you guys think the storytelling was? And do you think you'll recommend these episodes to somebody else? Let's start with Jasper.
All at once or one at a time in terms of.
Give us everything you got and then give it a number.
Cool. In terms of vampire lore, I think that there are some things missing here. I mean, it's pretty much all the main things. You know, drink blood. There's a sire.
Mhm.
Um, sunlight is a big no-no, etc., etc. But I feel like a lot of the nuance is kind of first of all, why that guy have wings? That's weird. Second of all, I don't think that this is supposed to be a vampire's evil story. I think that this is supposed to be a religion's evil story, and the vampire kind of fits around that point. So they designed the vampire around religion instead of around just vampires. So I think I would have to give that like a 3 out of 5. Personally.
Okay. Ocean.
So, looking back on this, and so far in everything that's gone on thus far, you have vampire, you have you have what they say could be vampiric, it could be other things. I think what this is sounds more like a ghoul story than it does a vampire story. This is about a priest that is still in a delusion. It's not necessarily dementia. It feels like a delusion. How it started out and how it has come about, it does have the elements of what could be vampiric. It could also be, in my own opinion, is how different and I'll only lightly touch on this because if I go into too deep with this, it's going to end up being a different thing. So it's a very touchy subject, but the idea that all it takes is one person to essentially twist the words that are written is enough to cause the entire infrastructure to fall. And I think that's exactly what it's saying. It's the personification of how one person's delusion could end up being how a story could be made, and to being that anything could be twisted to a faith in a lot of ways. The idea that it's more of a ghouling story, that it's a corruptive story. Um, I think that's actually really interesting. An interesting concept. So when I'm looking at all this and combining it, it doesn't feel like a vampire story, but it has elements of it. So the idea behind it, I would say that it's a 3.5. And the reason why I give it a 3.5 is because when I envision what a demon looks like, that is kind of how I see this vampire, as a demon. But I see more of that demon's influence in Bev.
Krisha.
I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. I would recommend it to somebody who A, loves vampires, B, loves watching pieces of art like this that have so little details and are so nuanced. But this isn't like a casual watch. Like, you have to like really pay attention and be enveloped in the show because it is such an like it envelops you so quickly. It stays really true to vampire lore, I'm not gonna lie, because the sire, who is the first vampire in What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show, and this sire look the same. Wings, look more like a creature than they do a human. So, to me, that's fine. He's the first vampire, maybe? Maybe? Whatever. My only thing, and this is a huge pet peeve of mine, and it's so specific. I hate when they try to over scientifically explain what vampirism is, or what magic is, or what where it's just fucking magic. It's just magic. It doesn't need to be explained. It's just being a vampire. It's just being a creature. It doesn't need to be explained. You don't have to go into detail. Like, straight up. And so when she was like, blood disorders, I was like, I'm gonna need you to shut up and just, it's magic. That's it. Like, leave it be.
Can you blame the doctor, though, for trying to explain things scientifically?
Yeah.
She's going through it over there.
But if it was like, to answer the question of like, so will this go out of our system? Well, in this case, with it, like, that would have been fine. But when she's like, I think, like, I'm like, we don't need to sit here and listen to this explanation for 10 minutes. It's just being a vampire. I don't like it. It makes me so, I don't like it. So that docked a 0.5 for me. Because I straight up was like, it's just annoying. Like, don't do it. So that's my rating. 3.5 out of 5.
There was cult activity. There was a mass murder scene. We got to see some demonic shit going on. We got our hero of the day, which in this case is Riley, who's like, y'all better smarten the fuck up. Get the fuck on out of here and, like, stop fucking around. And then we got the dumbasses that he decided to tell, who were like, yeah, we're going to go ahead anyways and take a look and see what's going on and, you know, put ourselves in mortal peril because that's kind of the way we got to go. So we got the dumbasses of the story. Does it hold true to vampire lore? I want to say about a 3.5. Would I recommend it? Yes, absolutely. But I would have to I'd probably end up recommending it to somebody who knew their lore, who understood the significance and could get context. I think the storytelling is great for this, but I'm looking at that kind of as a series as a whole. These episodes specifically, I think there's some individual work that needs to be done for the individual episodes, but overall, I think these episodes tie really nicely into everything that we've seen up until now. I'm giving this, you know what? I'm going to go with the group here. I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5. So, yeah. Do we have any final thoughts?
So,
fuck Bev Keen.
Justice for Riley.
Justice for Riley and fuck Bev Keen.
We need to get those hashtags trending on social media.
And I say amen. And I say amen.
So I think one of the things is that look at this with your lore check sheet, or I guess the best way I put it is a lore bingo card at this point. You might as well have it all placed up on a bingo sheet and everything. And then check off the ones that you see. Because it's going to get bingo, but you're not sure which bingo you're going with. Like, did they do this? Yes. Did they do this? Yes. Did they do this? Yes. Is it? No. There's a free space in there, I promise. But I think the idea of it is that while, yes, it could be and has very many elements of being a vampire movie, I do believe that this is more of a demonic movie.
Fair. Well, this has been a highly entertaining discussion, I think. That being said, this Wednesday, we get ready to watch our last episode of Midnight Mass, the conclusion. And then we get ready to talk about episode 7 and our final thoughts next Monday. So you guys get ready for that, and then we'll talk about kind of the series as a whole and our all overall arching thoughts once everything's kind of pulled together. After Midnight Mass, we are doing Near Dark, which is a personal favorite of mine. That being said, to my co-hosts and anybody else who chooses to watch it, be aware that it was made in the 1980s. There's gratuitous violence, blood, guts, gore, and probably some other stuff that was pretty famous around the 1980s, if you enjoy that type of content. And then we get together and talk about it. And then we get to start planning out season 2, finally.
Yes.
Want to thank you for joining us for Masquerade Breach. I'm Blazewing.
I'm Catherine Cosplays.
I'm Jasper.
And I'm Ocean.
And remember, don't tell the Camarilla. I don't
We'll
need
have-
any more tech issues.
We have enough of problems with them not knowing.
See you next episode.